Again, my name is Dan Hendy. I'm the education manager here at Pennsylvania Rec and Park Society, and seeing as we're getting well into the summer, and we had a series of roundtables before we knew exactly what was going to go on with the COVID situation, and now we're into it a bit. We thought it would be a good time to have another roundtable discussion to see what's been going on with everybody, what have we learned, and also what we're thinking about for the fall, because you know, the situation is still there, and doesn't seem like there's going to be a quick end in sight on this one. So we thought we'd open this up and have that sharing again. We did ask for some questions to get us started, and I actually going to put some things up on the screen. It's a little bit of an agenda. Can people see that? All right. Some things that we thought would be good for discussions would be, you know, maybe we can start by sharing a success from your spring or the summer so far, or, you know, what's worked for you, some of your continuing concerns. Then start looking ahead into the fall programming. What's that look like with sports and indoor activities and adult and seniors and pre-K programs? Finally, we're all probably dealing with schools or other facilities that aren't ours, and how we're making them out with all those folks. And of course, we have fall, we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, and the holiday season, and usually that comes with a lot of special events for programming and recreation departments. And so what we're thinking about that. And if there are other questions, I ask you to put them in the chat box. And I'm going to stop my share here, and we can certainly look for them. Again, Nikki is here with me from PRPS. She's going to be monitoring the chat box and make sure that those things get put up. Because you registered on Zoom, you don't need to put your email address in the chat box, because we already have that information. And so if there's anything that comes out of this that we want to share with everyone, or the link to the recording, we can get that out to you. Also, I should say that BK is here. He's from the Pennsylvania Park Management Institute, and he's also part of PRPS. So welcome, BK. So with all those introductions, real quick, just a reminder on your Zoom, we ask that you stay muted unless you want to talk, and then by all means unmute yourself. We like seeing your smiling face, so if you want to put your video on, that would be also awesome. And always speak up when you feel like you want to. If you don't feel like you want to talk, you can always include it in the chat box, and we can get it out to everyone. So that's pretty much with the ground rules. So I'd like to start off with, can anyone share a success from the spring or the summer so far? Have you done something that, you know, has really worked out for you, or at least partially worked out for you? And crickets. Okay.
Well, I'll start, I guess. Audrey from Campbell Borough. So we're able to have some things in person, but everything we've offered in person has been outside. Unfortunately, this week is my basketball and field hockey camp, and with the rain we're getting right now, I'm hoping to have field hockey tonight, but basketball got canceled this morning. Parents have been pretty okay with not having camp this morning. I think they understand, obviously. So we are having things, but everything's outside. And the same with the fall. I'm trying to schedule things for like just the month of September, but everything I'm offering is outside.
Outside programming. Audrey, are you in the Philadelphia area?
No, Harrisburg area. I'm just west of Harrisburg.
Because I was wondering how bad the side effects of that hurricane or tropical storm are.
We just have a lot of rain, which we need. I mean, really, we really do need it. It's the only day we've had of rain for a very long time. So, but nothing, no loss of power or anything like that.
I'm over here in, Christine from DCNR, I'm over here in Northeast PA, and the Allentown, Lehigh Valley area is getting hit pretty hard. I had some people on a conference call this morning that had to hang up because their basement was getting flooded, and I've already had the tree guys here twice taking trees down off of lines just because the water's so heavy. So we're getting it here in the Northeast. So if you guys are out west, stay safe.
Yeah. So anyone else had a summer program that worked, or pieces of a summer program, or something that you...
We've had a couple of programs. We typically have a 180 in a day camp program. After surveying our residents and reformatting the program, we ended up with 60. It's been very trying. My staff is exhausted. Today we canceled due to the storms coming in because we do not have a generator backup and we would be inside all day. There is concern. We did have a contact, one of our counselors, uncles or parents. Fortunately, they were negative, but they quarantined for 2 weeks, which then one of his coworkers quit because of the fear. And so we've been juggling staff. It's been very, very difficult, the indoor program. The outdoor program, which we ran, we've never run an all outdoor program. We've always had a school or a facility go into during inclement weather, whether it was excessive heat or rain. The excessive heat, wearing these masks for 3 hours even, has been very difficult. We did actually cancel camp due to the heat one day, and the parents were all very understanding. We've been very fortunate that way. One of the programs that really took off was the Camp to You kit, camp in a bag. We've had over 100 participants. We did it in a 3-week and 3-week sessions where you could sign up per week. A lot of work, but the person that usually handles the special events didn't have a whole lot to do this summer because all our special events were canceled. Our concerts, we've been getting a lot of requests to utilize our facilities, whether it's the amphitheater by a music group, choirs, the schools. The high schools have come to us using our picnic pavilions for their Booster Club Awards nights. We're kind of capitalizing on the fact that the schools are not allowing out-of-season sports use their facilities right now. So we have requests from some schools, our own high school, as well as a neighboring Catholic high school, to use our park. So we're charging some fees and making up a little bit of revenue that we lost, but it is certainly, in my 32 years, this is one of the most trying times that we've had. And I worry about my staff every day. They're exhausted. This pool staff, our manager. So, I'm sure you guys are all in the same boat. That's how our summer went.
Yeah, this is Mike in South Whitehall Township. We've had a bunch of successes, just adapting to what we had to during this summer. But we had a socially distancing yoga program that happens out in the park 3 times a week that's been very well attended. We have an adult basketball league, of all things, that has started up. We have a lot of requests as well for usage in our parks from groups that have typically used indoor space, dance groups, even like Narcotics Anonymous groups and folks like that who have typically used indoor church spaces that are now looking for places to meet, reaching out to us to kind of use our parks and facilities. I will echo what I believe it was Nancy there was just saying. This has been a very, very challenging summer as far as youth camps go. Just with the masks on and off and just trying to keep the kids wearing the mask has been very challenging. And then it's just been excessively hot out lately. So even for the staff to have the masks on all day has been very, very, very challenging. And fortunately, we are done after this week. And today has been rained out. But yeah, we've had a lot of successes just adapting to what we have to. I'm very curious to see what everybody's thinking and lining up for this fall. I've seen some neighboring communities doing movies in the park and those sorts of things still, and just kind of wondering how that's going, or how we, monitor the 250 people kind of max limit that the guidance has stated. So yeah, it's been an interesting summer to say the least, and I got my quarantine haircut going as well.
It's good you found a place to cut your hair.
No, that's my wife right there.
Yeah. She did a good job.
Thanks.
So maybe we should dive in then. I'm hearing concerns, rightfully so, and then people are very curious about what the fall's going to look like. So let's just dive in. What are our concerns going forward? Have people been given enough direction? I imagine that would be a concern. And are there ways that you can, are there directions that you're taking on your own? So can anyone speak to that?
Dan, this is Tyler from Upper St. Clair, and
Hi, Tyler.
we've had a lot of successes this summer, and we'll get into the fall concerns in just a second. But our successes really came with camp. Camp was traditionally held at Baker Elementary School, which is one of our township elementary schools, and we were able to move that to the park. And it had such great success in the park, we actually foresee it staying in the park as we move forward. So we're really trying to leverage our 500-acre park to our advantage in that sense. So that's been a really positive experience. We did reopen our community center the beginning of July, and we've been running a lot of classes outside. We've also been running our outdoor pool with actually pretty good numbers. So a couple hundred people a week are taking our classes outside. Those who are not comfortable coming in are taking them virtually. So our virtual programming has actually grown, and it continues to be popular during this time, particularly our mind and body classes. But the difficulty comes with the fall for us is we did have to cancel our last week of camp, as we did have a camp counselor become positive. So just how are we going to manage the staffing challenges that occur when there is a positive case? Because those aren't going to go away. And how do we, do we go into a complete shutdown mode? Do we go into a small mitigation mode? So just understanding the best practices there with limited guidance from the state has been interesting. And knowing really there's a couple guidelines, but some of them apply, some of them are suggestions. Then there's the public perception that comes with that. So that's been interesting. And also, for us, we're not going to be doing any large scale events, but what are some ways to supplement those activities to really try to reach our membership base and our residents locally, where our events have traditionally covered a large area geographically speaking. So really bringing it more local. And also with our schools in Upper St. Clair, they just did a hybrid model. So they're only going to be going to school 2 days a week. That came out yesterday. So how do we meet programming demands for those folks that, new programming demands that weren't there pre-COVID?
Go ahead, Nikki.
Dan, do you want me to read the chat box? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Go ahead and mute yourself so we're not echoing. As there were some earlier comments about some outdoor programming going well from Derek Muller. But more importantly, he says for fall, and I think this is an important thing to keep in mind, they're going week by week and they're not having any commitments from third parties, in-house programming only, and no brochure. So I think that kind of leads into other people. Tyler, you had some great questions, but also I know brochures are typically a big thing in our field. So that kind of opens the door to some additional thoughts.
We are going to do a brochure. And of course, our brochure is typically about 28, 32 pages. We are going to do a brochure. It's probably going to end up being 8 or 12. And we do supplement some of that with some advertisements. Of course, 1 or 2 pages will be the protocols that we're putting in place. A letter that will, from me, that will announce some of the programs. We're doing a lot of virtual programs. We're going to do some hybrid programs where The instructors will be teaching in our facility to a small number of participants, and then will be at home as well. We are also going to take on to the Learn programs, virtual classes, to see if we can, offer some other type programs and extended learning, I guess, generate a little bit of revenue. I think we might have a small audience for that. We do have concerns, as Tyler, about staffing. That's the question. We are very fortunate. Our township did bring on a medical advisor. So when we have had questions, we had a camper whose brother was positive. And when we called the county, because we had to report it, there were conflicting remarks of how we were to handle it. They actually said, oh, the brother can come to camp. But that really went against the protocols we had put in place. So there's still that uncertainty. So having that medical advisor, he's an ER physician. He's been dealing with infectious disease for years, is very calming to us, that at least we have someone to go to help us take us to the next level. So if I can get you his name. I'd have to send it out later because I don't have it right here. I'm working from home. But your supervisors can do something like that for you. It does give you a little bit of peace of mind.
Good point. Two things that came up, and one from what Tyler was saying is, has anybody had the situation where somebody has tested positive, like a staff person, and what have you done with it? Or if that hasn't happened, what's your plans if that does happen?
Hi, Alicia from Malvern Borough. I actually tested positive for it after being quarantined for 2 months, so I don't even know how I tested positive for it. But then my boss made me quarantine for 2 weeks. I'm the only Parks and Rec staffer that we even have. So I just had to stay home for 2 weeks. That was pretty much what we did. And then we notified the staff to just keep an eye on it. If anybody had any symptoms or anything like that, to go to their doctor. But nobody had anything. Again, I never actually was sick with it. So it was more of a precaution at that point because I tested positive for the antibodies.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia.
This is Sean from Pittsburgh. Hi, Tyler. We're sitting about a mile from each other. Anyway, so we were doing these pop-up programs with our education program. We were going out to into the community because the community wasn't coming to us, so we thought we would meet them where they are. And one of the YMCA camps that we visited, one of the camp counselors we found out tested positive, and so our education staff was exposed. Now they were wearing masks, we were outside, we were practicing our physical distancing, so it was kind of limited exposure, but just precautionary. We did cancel their sort of pop-up events for that team. We've divided people into teams for this very reason, and they are staying at home for 2 weeks. So we're just kind of monitoring those symptoms, but for us, I think we hate that it happened, but we felt like it was a really good dry run, knock on some wood that, everyone is healthy. But knowing that as we approach fall, that this could have a different circumstance, a different outcome. So as far as that, we've got those pop-up programs. We're doing yoga out in the parks. We used to get 50 attendees. Now we're lucky to get like 8 or 10. So we're noticing that attendance is dramatically dropped. No one's really comfortable coming out yet. We have opened up the parks to colleges, as University of Pitt, CMU, everybody's coming back, opening up the parks. You want to have classes outside, just trying to make it a little safer for people if they're coming back in person. Our big fundraiser was the hat luncheon. If some of you are aware of the hat luncheon, that was postponed from the spring. It's always Kentucky Derby Day, but now we have sort of re-envisioned it. So instead of doing this mass gathering in one location, what we're doing is people can now buy picnic baskets and on a certain day in September, they get delivered to your house and it comes with your plates, cutlery, you know, a really nice lunch, and you can take it out with your family and go to the park. So that's how we're reinventing our largest fundraiser of the year. So still keeping our virtual programming going too.
Thank you, Sean. All right. So going forward, as Sean was saying, what they're planning, how they modified their one program. You know, I know Halloween is always a big thing for recreation departments. Any ideas on or plans on how you're going to go ahead with Halloween and other fall tournaments, festivals, things like that? Anybody want to share?
Well, we're not going to have our Halloween parade, but we are going to have a Halloween costume contest and just have certain categories come to 2 different locations, which are right across from each other. And then let the kids come, get dressed up, get judged, get a goodie bag, and then we'll give out the awards within that 45-minute period. So we're having them advertise that every 45 minutes there's a different 2 different categories that come to 2 different locations, and we're blocking the whole street. So hopefully we don't have a lot of people there. I can't imagine we would, only because we're not having the whole community. Everybody shouldn't be coming at once, and I'm hoping that I can get that emphasized to everyone. That way the kids can get dressed up. Like, that's what the council members want. They want the kids to have something. So that was the only thing I could come up with, and I'm really hoping it works out. And as far as trick or treat goes, right now it's marked as happening, but you know, subject to change. I guess we'll wait and see what the governor says and what the current situation is at the time.
Okay.
Dan, for us, our planning metric follows 3 categories, and every program we think about follows those 3. And it's kids are in school 5 days a week, kids are in school hybrid, or kids aren't in school at all. That's been how we've been trying to plan, and in 3 different scenarios. So for Halloween, it's very similar. So if it's traditional, you know, we probably will have like a registration model. If it's all hybrid, you know, that might look a little bit different. And then if it's no kids are in school, then we're going to have more of a virtual type option. So every single program we're planning for the fall bases on those 3 metrics with kids going back to school.
Can you say them again, Tyler? The 3 metrics?
Yeah, so, well, essentially 3 different spots. So either the kids are in school 5 days a week, so full-time in school instruction, 2-day a week or hybrid instruction, or all at home virtual learning. So if it's all virtual, that impacts our planning and the way in which we're going to carry out programs. But if the kids are in school 5 days a week, then again, we're going to plan a little bit more normal than we had typically originally thought. So we have all 3 ready to go depending on the plan, because it's been changing so frequently, and we're prepared that come October it might look different than September.
Okay, so that's pretty neat. You're basing how you react according to what the schools do in your area. So that's a nice way to pin it up. You remind me of, and this is just a little anecdote, when I was back in grade school, I remember this one poster on a teacher's wall that like stared at me for the whole year, and it was this poster of the earth or something, and it said the only unchangeable thing is change itself. And it's funny that some things you just never forget from growing up, and it comes back to haunt you again and again and again, because we all know everything's going to change again. All right. Halloween still. Anyone else on, you know, how about even your municipality with the trick-or-treating nights and things like that. Has there been any discussion on that so far? Within the larger framework of your municipality, are they going to have trick-or-treating night, or is that not a thing in your area to begin with?
Every year we get calls whether or not trick-or-treating is scheduled or postponed or going to be held on a weekend instead of the actual day. And it's our policy that we don't interfere with October 31st. So it will be kept up to the residents whether they're going to want to continue to go out. What we, like Audrey, are doing is we typically have a Halloween event indoors with a costume parade indoors, entertainment. We're going to take it out to one of the parks, try to schedule them a little bit differently, like Audrey said, and bring them through the park, go on to one of the trails, and then we're talking about the trunk or treat. Schools have been doing that, so right now we're reaching out to the schools to see if they're still going to do it. Maybe we just make it a community event. Awards will be given, but they will not be giving out candy from the trunk or treat. It would be one collective bag at the end. So that's what we're planning for Halloween. But as far as canceling or postponing or restricting Halloween night, we don't get involved with that.
I also have a chat box response. We are canceling our traditional indoor party, instead planning a scarecrow walk, hoping that families and local businesses will sponsor a scarecrow, use the largest park to set up a walkway around with the scarecrows and other Halloween. Time tickets, 20 people per half hour. They can vote on their favorite scarecrow and then pick up treats in a bag, I guess, to take home. That's a pretty interesting way to do it, especially the timed. Anyone else have ideas for Halloween? And thank you, Devon. That was nice. I noticed I'm looking at the questions that I got prior to the roundtable. How are you guys dealing with schools and with other program locations? Sometimes our programs depend on the use of schools or the Legion Hall or somebody else's fields. What kind of cooperation or permission or not are you receiving, and have you found any ways to make up for it?
We're not getting school approval. So the only facilities we're able to use are our facilities. We have a senior center. The senior center is not opening, so we're moving into the senior center. We've run some programs in there the past couple of weeks when we went green. We have 5 to 10 people in a program. It's a very large area. People are 6, if not 10 feet social distancing. So that's worked out. But as far as using other facilities, we're getting requests, like I said earlier, for them to use ours.
Another idea for Halloween is a drive-through boo, or the Halloween dog park event. There you go. Have the best Halloweener dog, I guess. Devon also says we aren't able to use our schools at all, which led to canceling of our in-person summer recreation. We've been told that our rec basketball won't happen this winter either because of the school and not allowing outside groups in. All right. Anybody else have situations with schools or other facilities?
Like Nancy, we don't have permission yet to use the schools because they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do. So right now I can't even use our municipality buildings through the month of August. They're going to reevaluate and let me know about the last quarter. So right now, everything I want to do, I have to offer outside, which is tough, especially with the loss of time when it gets into October, November at night, it gets dark. So it's going to be difficult once September ends, how to hold things outside, or if I just try to hold exercise classes early in the morning. I have a couple instructors asking about doing early morning workouts. So we'll see. But right now I can't use any schools or borough buildings at this time.
How many of you are, go ahead, somebody else wanted to speak up. Please go ahead.
It's Jessica from Eastern New York Recreation. We're a fairly new organization. I've only had 1 year under my belt, and I inherited youth sports. So we predominantly have youth sports going on. So during this pandemic, it's been a little tough trying to bring any other programs to the area, not knowing what people would want to do, and on top of everything that's going on. We don't use any of the school facilities, but at this time, I know they're not allowing any outside groups. As several people have said, we've gotten flooded with field requests, facility requests. We do have a gymnasium. And as Audrey said, I've been moving everything outside. Somebody mentioned a men's basketball league, that too. We're only getting like 10 to 12 guys come to that. So if they play in the same groups each week, that's the way I guess we've been maintaining it. But my question, and I think you kind of asked, is, so I serve 3 townships, so it's a matter of following what each township has put in place for their facilities and so forth. So one thing I'm looking at is the different insurance coverages based on where we are, and if there's any repercussions due to COVID, and where that would come back to, whether it be my authority, the townships, so forth. As of right now, 2 of our 3 youth sport seasons have been canceled for the fall, and there's one that we need to make a decision on pretty soon. So that's my question, as far as any, if anybody's had any discussions with their solicitor or their insurance carriers as to what would happen if somebody tried to, I guess, I hate to say it, but sue from being a participant.
And Jessica, you have 3 municipalities that you're working for, or 3?
Yeah, so I'm under the circuit rider grants, and so I have 3 municipalities under me out of the 6 that make up the school district.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a matter of just staying on top of what each, because in the beginning I had some that had their parks open, some that didn't, some that were allowing indoor, some that were, so it's just trying to navigate what they're allowing us, or what they're allowing the community to do on top of programming.
To answer your question, I would say obviously check with a local solicitor, but I can tell you we've kind of been advised that it's such a difficult thing to track down. You know, how can you prove that someone got COVID while participating in your camp and didn't get it at the grocery store the night before, or, you know, somewhere else? So it's such a kind of a fluent virus that, you know, it's kind of impossible to prove where someone would have contracted that. So.
And
you should be okay as far as that goes, but I'm not a lawyer, so I would check locally.
That's a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have. And like I said, because of dealing with 3 different municipalities, I've been checking in with the township manager, the solicitor, and the board, just to see, you know, where their thoughts are going into the fall with group settings and so forth. So just waiting. I don't think anybody knows. That's the problem, and everybody's waiting for somebody else to respond, because that's pretty much the answer that I'm getting. We're looking into it.
Jessica, you may want to reach out to Tug from Mechanicsburg, because she has, her rec department covers 3 municipalities as well. So she might be a good resource for you.
it's a heck of a first year for you, huh, Jessica?
Well, yeah, it's been interesting, but in York County, the baseball season did go on. They more or less moved the spring to the end of summer, early fall, or and that'll be wrapped up hopefully by the time school starts. So we were able to do that. We had to put some protocols in place. We did have some teams that we weren't able to provide programs for, but it's actually been going very well, and parents have been very appreciative. But at the same time, it's, I think, as Nancy said, even just with their staff and the folks out there every day, it's just, you know, you're just hoping that everybody is doing what you're asking them to do.
And what you're talking about goes along with what's going on in the chat box over here, where some, I think Carlisle had asked if people have waivers for COVID and participation, and Pittsburgh, Mike has one, Audrey, Camp Hill, and some are even having their temperature checks. So I think a waiver is probably the way to go. Not that it's ironclad, but it's always helpful when somebody signs something recognizing risks. And, maybe it doesn't stand up in the court wall, but it doesn't hurt either. And so I was wondering if anyone would want to volunteer a copy of their waiver or a link to it that we could put in the chat box and share with everyone for those who aren't using them or would want to see what one looks like. Mike, do you want to just talk about specifically what your waiver says or what kind of language is in there?
Sure, yeah, actually I'm working from home today because of this storm, so I don't have it right in front of me here, but it pretty much just says that the township is not liable for anything that may happen at one of our programs. Obviously, by you signing up for a program, you understand that we're dealing with a pandemic and, a worldwide issue right now, and you're doing so at your own risk and yada, yada, yada. It's I don't want to say boilerplate, but it's pretty much covers that you understand it's not a normal year and you're still volunteering to sign up for this program, and you're doing so kind of at your own risk.
Also, something from the chat box here, legality aside, be wary of the press media who may take a rumor and run with it. Even if it's false information, it can be an issue for you. Derek, I hope that didn't happen to you, but that's a good warning.
No issues. We just know people don't really fact check these days, so anything printed is the gospel truth as far as they're concerned.
You mean things on social media aren't true? Sometimes.
You'd be really surprised, Dan.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point there. Social media makes information really accessible easily and almost instantaneously, and that's good and bad because there's not enough filters on it sometimes to separate the chaff from the wheat. So Kelsey also says we'd love to see how other departments write the COVID waivers, and would love some examples of that if anyone can give up theirs. So that would be great. So thinking a little further out, the last question I actually have here is going forward with the implications. What are your implication thoughts and plans for Halloween and other fall winter events? What are you thinking about skiing or ski programs if you offer them? What about your Christmas your holiday celebrations? What about the turkey trots and all those things that happen in the fall? Your leagues, your indoor sports. What are we planning on those fronts?
Dan, I think it's really interesting because I don't know if I'm speaking for other people, but I feel like next week is as much of a challenge as the winter time. Things are changing so rapidly, and just to give you an example, within Allegheny County, every township is doing something different. And that's one of the reasons that, I was fortunate enough to be, thank you for doing these roundtables, because we do get to kind of see what other townships are doing. But I mean, we're operating. We see a few hundred people a day in our rec center, in a safe, socially distanced manner. But we're in full operation. But just 5 minutes from me, we have facilities that are closed. So some, I believe until January. So it just depends on the facility. And it's so fascinating because for us to try to plan around that and what the state changes, we had. Right around the 4th of July, Allegheny County came out and they did a 25-person ban, mass gatherings over 25 people. So we spiraled and we had to close for the weekend. And then 2 days later, they posted that outdoor pools were exempt from that in an FAQ sheet. So to try to plan when they send out announcements at 4 o'clock in the evening for the next day can be challenging. So like I said, we do have some plans based off of the kiddos being back to school and what that's going to look like, but we're prepared to have to regress if we need to.
Understood, Tyler, understood. So are those events sort of not even on our radar yet? Was it too early to talk about Halloween? We're still looking at next week, everyone, or?
So the Malvern Borough, we've actually canceled all in-person events for the rest of the year. Just as a precautionary, we have an emergency manager who's actually our police admin, and she has pretty much told us that, you know, she doesn't really feel safe having any in-person events that are over 25 people. The only event that we're actually doing is our yoga, which is in the park. And that is maybe about 15 people at most, but I think 8 people are probably the max that sign up per week. Other than that, we just decided to cancel everything going forward, and then we'll reassess, hopefully, you know, October, November, December, and go forward with January and be able to at least have some in-person events next year. But we're doing everything virtual. We actually have probably 4 or 5 ideas that we have lined up for the late summer, early fall. But, you know, we're always interested to hear what other townships do. The nature mandalas is actually something that I heard from another PRPS roundtable that I attended, and my committee loved it. And we're going to start doing that in the fall, you know, with the colorful leaves, hoping that gets some kids out into our park, you know, with school and all of that stuff, kind of get them away from the computer a little bit. But yeah, you know, pretty much any virtual ideas that anybody has, I'm really interested in kind of hearing what kind of creativity you guys have and how we may be able to engage the community still through this virtualness that we have now.
Okay. That's a great question, and we can start it off. You know, again, it was alluded to a little bit. The Camp in the Bag kit was a success for Audrey, I believe, right? And I know the Pittsburgh Park Conservancy did something similar during the course of the summer. Anyone else have a program that was a hit or was good?
I've actually been running a few virtual programs for our therapeutic recreation division, so our population for individuals with disabilities. And I've been doing them since the end of June. And the first 2 that I started out with were more social programs. So I did one social program for adults with disabilities, and then I did a social program for kids with disabilities, and they both ran on a 5-week schedule. So we met once a week for 5 weeks. And each week we did something different. So we talked, like, one week was general conversations, one was about good news, one was about handling stress. We played a game, we did trivia. For the kids, their last Friday is this Friday, and we're ending it with a talent show for them to do. And so that whole program in itself has been very successful. I'm also going to be running 2 different bundle programs in August, where we're doing bingo twice during the month, a craft and karaoke night. And so those are going to be offered on Mondays, and each Monday is a different activity. And then for the craft and for bingo, I put together little kits. So each kit has all the supplies needed for the art project, and it came with a bingo card and a dry erase marker, so that way they can use the bingo card multiple times. So that just started last night for the adults, and then the kids program is going to start August 13th, and that again will run more on a 5-week or a 4-week schedule, and it'll be once a week for 4 weeks. But those programs have been pretty successful. I was a little bit nervous starting off because I wasn't really sure how the virtual programming was going to work with the population that I serve. It's been very well accepted, and I mean, everyone that has done it has called and said, can we do more of these? So it's been fun, but it's just very different because we're just used to seeing people in person, and we're just sad that we can't at this point. We're not doing any kind of in-person activities. So the virtual thing has been different, but we are doing a lot of different, we're just being creative with it. So I have another program that I've planned for October, and it's going to be a cooking program, cooking and baking. And so we'll give them a supply list. We'll provide them with some kitchen tools like a bowl and a whisk and that kind of thing. But then it'll be about an 8-week program, and they'll meet once a week, and they'll learn how to make simple either cooking or baking creations. That's what I've been doing so far.
I just want to mention some stuff that our local Park and Rec department is doing here. One of the programs they've done in the past, before we were forced to be virtual, is they do a park pursuit photo hunt. So they give weekly clues and then families compete to get points. So they give a clue, the family or individual or a couple, whatever, go out, take a photo, post it on social media. And they did that for the month of July, and that got a lot of families involved. So that's one of their popular things. Of course, they typically did movies in the park. This year, they partnered with the local PBS station to show PBS either movies or cartoons, and that was neat because then that helped cover some of that excessive cost. We did ask in the chat box, what were some of your best and worst virtual programming? And some of the ones on here, Sean shared that their best were virtual hikes, yoga with ASL translation, mindfulness map, videos on safe picnics and gardening. And then Devin mentioned that their best video was tie-dye bandanas with, they tie-dyed with Sharpies and alcohol. So those are great ideas as well. So anyone else, your best virtual program or your worst, the one that completely tanked, we would love to hear. Now I know you have some good programs and some programs that tanked. I spent over 15 years programming, so it's okay to tell us what ones you thought were amazing and what ones you thought needed help.
All right, no one wants to fess up on their worst programs. Okay, we understand. So right now, I would like to open, we have about 10, 15 minutes left. I'd like to open this to any and all questions from you guys to see, you know, we've sort of gone through all the questions that I gotten beforehand. But if there's anything that advice we can offer Jessica as a new person on the block, other concerns about COVID, anything like that, a question that you want answered, now's your time to speak up.
Yeah, hi, I have a question. This is Lauren from Conshohocken Borough. Is anyone considering offering a program working with schools or not with schools, but based on if they're doing, you know, e-learning or virtual learning? So most of the schools in our area are doing virtual or a hybrid, 2 days in school, 3 days out. So I have been working on a program since I found this out last week, where it'll just be, I won't have, you know, certified teachers, but there will be, you know, moderators where kids will come in and they will do their e-learning here. As of right now, they will need to provide their own electronic resources, including headphones. It will be based off of the school district that we're in, but we could possibly open it up to different school districts.
For next week's social.
Anybody considering anything like that?
I have a question. You said they're not going to be teachers, but they're going to be e-learning. So are these like after school activities?
So
Like
no, it's going to be
or?
during their school. It will be, so we're in the Colonial School District. Those kids will have to have their work, and it'll follow, they released a schedule, a virtual schedule that they go through. So let's say math is offered from, you know, 9:30 to 10:15. So the kids will do their math at that time. Our moderators, you know, they're one's an education major, one is working towards an education major, but she's older. So they'll be able to help kids with questions, but they won't have someone sitting with them doing the work. So it would be more independent, but it's just somewhere where they'd be able to do this work while their parents, you know, themselves have to go to work.
Mhm. I guess the answer is no, Lauren. Nobody
Yeah,
else.
I'm gonna go with that too, okay?
Sorry, we can't be of more help on that one, but it sounds like a neat idea.
Yeah, I mean, we would have, you know, a recess for them. They'd be required to bring their own lunch. I'm looking to possibly bring in someone, you know, possibly a third party company to do maybe like some recreation activities during their lunch with them. But we feel that our community is going to need something for parents that need to work.
So that they would be dropping their child off to you like a daycare, and they would need to bring their laptops and
Correct.
everything else.
So we've been having these conversations about, you know, what we can do for our community. And in some of these emergency management meetings, I mean, for instance, one of our employees, he has twins and they go to the Colonial School District, and he's been interviewing, you know, retired teachers or things like that, you know, people like that to come to his house while he and his wife has to work. And, you know, they are doing the virtual learning with their children, and it's costing them an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, I didn't catch the whole conversation. To be honest, I was preoccupied with something else in the office, but have you tried a homeschooling organization? There's a lot of those groups in Pennsylvania where people do have experience, you know, managing children and making sure that they're doing their study. So you could just start by Googling that, homeschooling in PA.
Okay, that's an idea. Thank you.
And a lot of the times those groups are already set, and you know, they already have activities and things that the children can do, and they know where the other possible presenters are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I do have a question. I was just wondering what everyone's thoughts are as you work towards your budget for 2021. Are you budgeting thinking we're going to be green, yellow, as far as like revenues, expenses, and that type of thing?
I'm looking to budget starting really like June, our camps. Anything prior to that will be a very reduced budget, expense and revenue. Our programs I'm anticipating are not really going to come back until we see a lot of activity personally. Hopefully by next summer, but maybe plan on back to normalcy, maybe September. You know, I think we'll be seeing a reduced camp as well. Partly because I think there'll be less people working and needing their programs or be able to afford the programs. So, I mean, we offer programs, we don't offer free programs. Some of you may, or subsidized programs, and that might be a greater need. This is all just personal opinion. But as far as preparing my budget, Audrey, that's what I'm going at. You know, a somewhat normal summer, reduced revenue, reduced participants, and then heading into September as being a little bit more normal.
Okay,
So I'm
thank you.
really, you know, January through June, you know, like going to be throwing stuff up against the wall.
Any other questions? Okay. I. Go ahead.
The first thing I want to mention is thank you, Devin. She had in the chat box told us a program that didn't ideally work, so I'm going to share that. And thank you for being brave. They tried a program where people could log into a live mad science program, and they had no one call in. So I appreciate that she was willing to share that, and I'm sure it's happened for some other virtual programming, especially when you don't require pre-registration. Earlier, PRPS on one of their first roundtables scheduled it, and the only people on were staff and board members, so we were like, So thank you for sharing that. And the other thing I wanted to let people know is that PRPS is working on a social for next week. So on Thursday of next week, and even before that, keep an eye out for an email. We're going to try our first social. We're not calling it a happy hour, but we're doing a social from 4 to 6 next Thursday. We're going to try our hand at some trivia, some other games, and we're hoping to secure a mixologist. And if we can, we will send the recipe details out to everyone in advance. So please keep an eye out for that. There will be no cost. We will not be recording it. We'll have open discussion rooms for people who just need to vent. So we wanted to put that out for you to keep an eye out for the details, and we hope you can all join us. And of course, we do want to see your faces, so try to get a camera so you can really participate, and we hope to see you then.
Thank you, Nikki. Okay, any other questions? While we're waiting for that, I did want to share a screen. Nope, not that one. This one, I wanted to remind you that next on the 18th of August, we have a webinar coming up for Leadership Pivot with Mary Kelly. She's a renowned public speaker, has worked for the U.S. Navy for a long time, and she does a lot of these types of training. So for those of us who are in leadership positions or supervisory positions throughout recreation, she's doing a specially designed webinar for us on how to make your agency viable and how to make sure that your folks are doing as much as they can and feeling good about it, hopefully. So I just wanted to offer that to everyone. So that's my shameless plug for PRPS. Otherwise, any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. On behalf of PRPS, I do want to thank everybody for your participation. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. It was fun to see you all again and have our little roundtable discussions. And thanks to Nikki and BK for your keeping me online today. And thank you everyone for coming, and please be safe.